Okay, let's run a quick diagnostic. I want you to picture a scenario that I think is going to feel, well, uncomfortably familiar.
Hmm.
It's a standard Tuesday morning. You wake up, you swing your legs out of bed, your feet hit the floor, and crunch. There's that stiff knee again.
Or the elbow.
Or the elbow, right? Or maybe it's just this heavy, dragging feeling like you're wading through molasses. You just feel slow, mechanically compromised.
It's a sensation that I think almost everyone listening has felt. It's that universal morning groan, that feeling that the machinery is just running a little bit rusty.
Exactly. And what is our standard operating procedure when that happens? We ignore it. We categorize it as, maintenance issues.
Right. I slept on it wrong.
I must have slept funny. Or, while the odometer is rolling over, I guess I'm just getting older. We treat our bodies like a car with a squeaky hinge. It's just a local mechanical annoyance. Maybe pop an ibuprofen to silence the squeak and get on with your day.
We treat the noise because the noise is what's annoying us. We address the symptom because it's the thing demanding our attention.
But, and this is the absolute hook for today, what if I told you that stiff knee has almost nothing to do with your knee? What if that local pain is actually a smoke signal for a massive invisible fire burning everywhere else in your body?
Everywhere. From your coronary arteries to the synapses in your brain.
Wow.
And that is the unsettling but also transformative premise of today's deep dive. We are unpacking a heavy-hitting piece of work. It's titled The Fire Within, Chronic Inflammation and Cellular Longevity by Dr. Corina Ianculovici.
She's the founder of the Mirelle Institute for Anti-Aging Medicine.
Right, and she is basically dismantling this whole idea that our aches and pains are just isolated events.
So the mission today is to shift your perspective entirely. We need to stop looking at the smoke, the symptoms, and understand the fire. And to do that, we have to go microscopic. We're going to talk about the engine room of your cells.
The mitochondria.
And a critical molecule called NAD, plus that honestly you might not even know you're running out of.
It's a shift from thinking mechanically to thinking biologically. And I'll be honest, once you see this connection, you can't unsee it.
I have to admit, when I first started reading this, I was skeptical. I'm sitting there rubbing my sore shoulder thinking, okay, Dr. Ianculovici, how is this soreness connected to my cognitive health or my liver function? It felt like a massive reach.
Like a flat tire and a glitchy radio.
Exact.
It feels like a reach because we're conditioned to view the body as a collection of spare parts. We have a cardiologist for the heart, an orthopedist for the knee, a dermatologist for the skin.
Right. We treat the body like a car where the tires have absolutely no relationship to the transmission.
But biologically, that's nonsense.
Because everything shares the same blood supply. Is that the idea?
That's it. The central argument here is that inflammation is almost never local. I mean, think about what inflammation actually is. It's an immune response. It involves signaling molecules, cytokines, traveling through your bloodstream. It is a systemic event by definition.
So if those inflammatory markers are in my knee...
They are in your carotid artery 5 seconds later.
Okay, so then I feel it in my knee because...
Yeah.
Why? Why doesn't my liver hurt if it's systemic? Why isn't my brain throbbing?
Well, that's the deceptive part. You feel it in the knee because joints are packed with nerve endings that register pain and pressure very, very clearly. But your liver, your arteries, your brain tissue, they don't have that same sensory feedback loop.
They don't have pain receptors in the same way.
Not in the same way, no.
The source used a phrase that actually stopped me in my tracks. It was, the knee hurts because it can, the heart and brain do not until they fail.
It's chilling, isn't it? The knee hurts because it can. It implies that pain is actually a luxury. It's a warning system. But your vital organs, they suffer in silence. So while you're rubbing that knee thinking it's just wear and tear.
My vascular system and neural networks are just bathing in that same inflammatory heat.
Precisely.
So this silent progression, this is the fire Dr. Ianculovici is talking about.
Yes. Chronic sterile inflammation. It's not an infection. It's a malfunction.
Yeah.
And it is linked to the major killers. Heart disease, metabolic dysfunction, fatty liver, neurodegeneration. But unlike a broken bone, it doesn't announce itself with a scream.
It's cumulative.
It whispers for decades before it shouts.
Which explains why we get blindsided. We think we're healthy, we're healthy, we're healthy. And then suddenly we're diagnosed with something major at 55.
Exactly. We confuse asymptomatic with healthy. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source argues that conditions like arthritis and Alzheimer's, which seem totally unrelated, are often just different expressions of the same underlying biological fire.
It's the same fire, just burning in different rooms of the house.
That is a perfect analogy. And if we want to understand how that fire starts, we have to leave the organ level and go down to the cellular level. We need to talk about the power grid,
The mitochondria.
the mitochondria.
Now, everybody remembers high school biology. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. I think that meme is burned into our collective consciousness.
It's the one thing everyone retains. And it's true, they generate ATP, which is cellular energy. But the source points out that we've massively underestimated them. They aren't just dumb batteries. They are intelligent control centers. They manage two things: energy production and defense.
Defense. I thought that was the immune system's job.
It is, but the mitochondria signal the immune system. Here's the nuance that Dr. Ianculovici brings out.
Yeah.
Mitochondria have limited bandwidth. They can either be in peacetime mode, making energy, repairing DNA, maintaining the cell,
Okay.
or they can be in wartime mode, fighting stress and signaling inflammation. They cannot do both efficiently at the same time.
So what happens when we stress them out continuously, like with poor diet, lack of sleep, environmental toxins, chronic stress?
Imagine a city power grid during a massive heat wave. Everyone turns on their AC at once. The demand spikes. The grid can't keep up. What happens?
Brownouts.
You get brownouts. The utility company starts cutting power to non-essential sectors just to keep the hospitals running.
So the cell goes into survival mode.
Exactly. When mitochondria are underfueled or chronically stressed, energy production drops. You feel that as fatigue. But more importantly, the luxury processes get cut. And unfortunately, long-term repair is considered a luxury by the body when it's trying to survive the day.
So we stop fixing the potholes in the road because we're too busy.
Putting out fires, correct. DNA repair slows down, debris clearance slows down, and inflammation shifts. It stops being a short, sharp response to an injury like a cut healing and becomes the body's background state.
Like a low-grade hum of alarm bells that never turns off.
That's it.
And the dangerous trap here is the timeline, right? Because you can run on a brownout for a long, long time.
Years, decades. You could live in this low-energy, high-inflammation state for half your life. And because the decline is so gradual, we don't call it disease, we call it aging.
I'm just slower now because I'm 45. I'm just stiffer because I'm 50.
We rationalize the pathology. We accept it as inevitable. But look at what is actually happening physiologically during this brownout. Dr. Ianculovici lists the silent disruptions. It affects endothelial function. That's the lining of your blood vessels. They become stiff, less responsive.
Which sets the stage for high blood pressure.
Exactly. It affects cerebral blood flow. So you get brain fog or memory lapses where you can't find that word you're looking for. It affects insulin signaling. So you start storing fat around the midsection even if you haven't changed your diet. And critically, it affects immune surveillance.
That's the one that scared me. Immune surveillance is the body's ability to spot a rogue cell, maybe a precancerous one, and take it out.
Right. It's the security guard at the gate. If the security guard is exhausted and under-resourced because of this mitochondrial stress, he might fall asleep at the post. He misses the rogue actor. And that is how things like cancer get a foothold.
It's like the alarm is ringing, but the volume is turned down so low, maybe just that stiff knee that you're sleeping right through it.
And meanwhile, the fire is spreading.
I want to ground this for a second, because systemic inflammation and mitochondrial stress can feel a bit abstract. The source brings up a really specific, tangible example that I found surprising. Fatty liver disease.
Yes. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Yay.
Or NAFLD. This is arguably the best example of the healthy person's paradox.
See, when I hear liver disease, I have a very specific stereotype in my head. I think of alcohol. I think of someone who has been partying way too hard for 30 years.
Right.
But the text says we need to throw that stereotype out the window.
Completely. This condition is now one of the most common metabolic disorders worldwide, and it affects millions of people who are not heavy drinkers. In fact, it affects people who eat what they consider a healthy diet, people who look relatively thin, people who exercise.
So how does a healthy person get a fatty liver? That doesn't seem to track.
It goes back to that metabolic stress we discussed. It's about how the body handles energy. If your insulin signaling is disrupted, even slightly, because of that background inflammation, your liver starts to panic store energy. It takes sugar and converts it into visceral fat, packing it right inside the organ.
So the liver is essentially struggling to manage the energy load, even if the load isn't coming from vodka.
Exactly. It's a metabolic traffic jam. And the scary part is the silence again. Do you know what the symptoms of early-stage fatty liver are?
I'm guessing nothing.
0. You do not have liver pain. You don't turn yellow immediately. Most people feel absolutely nothing, maybe a little fatigue, which they dismiss.
Of course.
By the time you feel actual discomfort from fatty liver, fibrosis, which is permanent scarring, has often already developed.
The absence of pain does not mean the absence of disease.
That is the mantra. The source mentioned other quiet indicators too. Things on the skin.
Yeah.
Actinic keratosis, those rough, scaly patches people get from sun damage.
Or basal cell carcinoma.
Right. We look at a rough patch of skin and think, I need some better moisturizer. We treat it cosmetically. We don't think my body's DNA repair mechanisms are failing to keep up with UV damage.
That's a heavy realization. We're missing the forest for the trees. We see a skin patch, a stiff knee, a bit of stubborn belly fat. We treat them as three separate annoyances. We don't see the system failing.
Which brings us to the pivotal question. If we accept that the fire is burning, that the mitochondria are struggling, the grid is browning out, and inflammation is rising, how do we actually extinguish it?
Right. We can't just take ibuprofen for the rest of our lives. That's just putting tape over the check engine light.
Waving a fan at the smoke doesn't put out the fire.
So the source introduces a hero in this story. A molecule with a name that sounds like a sci-fi droid. NAD plus psych.
Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide.
Yeah, I'm sticking with NAD plus psych. It sounds cooler.
Probably for the best. NAD plus is, well, it's difficult to overstate its importance. If mitochondria are the engine, NAD plus is the fuel, the oil, and the mechanic all rolled into one. Life literally does not exist without it.
So what does it actually do? Why is it the linchpin here?
Okay, so it has three main jobs that are directly relevant to our fire analogy. First, it is chemically essential for mitochondrial energy production. You cannot move electrons to create ATP without NAD plus fuel. It's the spark plug.
Okay, so no NAD plus 1, no energy. That explains the fatigue. What's number 2?
Second, and this is crucial for the anti-aging conversation, it's the fuel for a family of proteins called sirtuins. You can think of sirtuins as the CEO of the cell.
Okay.
They regulate cellular health, they control inflammation, and they decide whether a cell survives or dies. But here's the catch. Sirtuins cannot function without NAD plus WO.
So if NAD plus is low, the CEO goes on vacation.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
The management leaves the building. And the third job, DNA repair. There are enzymes called PRPs that physically fix breaks in your DNA strands. They require NAD plus to work.
So it keeps lights on, it manages the security team, and it physically repairs the walls of the house.
Ideally, yes. But here is the problem, and it's the reason we age the way we do. NAD plus levels are not constant. Peer-reviewed research consistently shows that NAD plus levels declined, precipitously, as we age. By the time you are middle-aged, you might have half the NAD plus you had in your 20s.
It's a supply and demand problem, isn't it?
It's a vicious cycle. As we get older, our inflammatory burden goes up. We have more damage to fix, more fires to fight. So we burn through our NAD plus faster. But at the exact same time, our body becomes less efficient at making new NAD plus.
Supply goes down, demand goes up. That's a recipe for bankruptcy.
Which leads to a cellular crash. We have more fires to fight and less water to fight them with.
That explains the acceleration feeling of aging. People say, I felt great until 40, and then everything just fell apart.
That's the tipping point. When NAD plus falls below a critical threshold, cells lose the ability to regulate that stress. The sirtuins turn off. The DNA repair crews go on strike. And this leads to that fantastic analogy Dr. Ianculovici uses.
Which one?
Suppressing inflammation without restoring NAD plus is akin to turning down a smoke alarm while the fire continues to burn.
That's the line that really stuck with me. We spend billions of dollars on anti-inflammatories, on painkillers, on comfort measures. We are obsessively turning down the alarm because the noise bothers us, but we aren't refilling the extinguisher.
And this isn't just about feeling a little better or having more energy on a Tuesday. If we look at the data, the biography of our health, the stakes are incredibly high. This isn't about vanity, it's about survivability.
Yeah, let's look at the numbers. Because the source references some CDC data, that is. Well, it's a reality check.
It is. We talk a lot about life expectancy. In the U.S., it's hovering just under 80 years. But Dr. Ianculovici argues that life expectancy is a misleading metric. We need to look at health expectancy.
The quality of those years.
Exactly. At age 65, the average person has fewer than 20 years remaining. But the data suggests a huge portion of those years, sometimes the majority, are lived with chronic disease, disability, or cognitive decline.
We are living longer, but we aren't living better.
We are managing decline rather than maintaining function. Correct. The CDC life tables show that mortality isn't driven by sudden, random events for most people. It's driven by long-term inflammatory and metabolic diseases.
Heart disease, cancer, stroke, Alzheimer's.
Right. These are not accidents. These are the end results of decades of that silent fire we talked about.
It's the scorecard. The body keeps the score, and eventually it posts the results.
Yes. And what begins quietly, as a stiff knee or a bit of
Mhm.
fatigue, it ends statistically. Averages are made of individuals who waited until the smoke turned into a blazing fire.
This brings us to the mirror test. Dr. Ianculovici poses a challenge to the reader here. She asks, do I want to manage my biology or become part of the curve? And she suggests a physical check-in.
It's a confrontation with reality, she says. Stand in front of a mirror, look at the texture of your neck. Is it creepy? Is it thinning? Look at your hands, move your joints through their full range of motion. How fast do you recover from a workout? If you run for a bus, are you winded for 5 minutes or an hour?
These seem like superficial things. I mean, nobody likes a wrinkled neck, but is it medical?
It is. That's the point. Your skin is an organ. Your recovery time is a proxy for mitochondrial efficiency.
Yeah.
Those aren't just cosmetic issues. Wrinkles, stiffness, slow recovery, those are the external indicators of your internal biological history.
So if I look in the mirror and I see the score, and I don't like it, does the source offer a way out? Or are we just doomed to this decline?
No, and that's the optimistic turn here. The source distinguishes between episodic care and designed longevity.
Define those for me.
Episodic care is the standard model most of us live in. I get sick, I go to the doctor, I get a pill, I go home. It is reactive. It waits for the failure. Designed longevity is strategic. It's about restoring that intracellular capacity, specifically targeting the mitochondria and NAD+ levels before the failure happens.
It's preventative maintenance for the human machine.
But deeper. It's about understanding that you can quiet the fire. The text emphasizes that things like NAD+ precursors, metabolic optimization, and specific lifestyle changes aren't magic wands. They don't make you immortal. But they are tools to restore the body's ability to heal itself.
But the key is timing.
Always. You can fix a stiff knee. You can reverse fatty liver in the early stages. The liver is incredibly regenerative. But you cannot unscramble an egg.
Once the damage crosses a certain threshold into heart failure or advanced dementia, the options narrow drastically.
Exactly. The text ends with a really poignant reminder. The fire can be quieted, but only if it is addressed before it takes something you cannot get back.
That hits home. It changes the mindset from, I'll deal with it when it breaks, to, I need to keep it from breaking.
Stop looking at the knee as a knee problem. Start seeing it as a system signal. That is the takeaway.
So let's recap this journey, because we've covered a lot of ground today. We started with the rusty hinge, the stiff knee that ruins your Tuesday morning.
And we learned that the rusty hinge is actually a traveler inflammation moving through the blood, affecting the brain and organs just as much as the joint.
We went into the engine room, the mitochondria, and learned that when they run low on fuel, they switch to survival mode. They prioritize keeping the lights on over fixing the walls.
And we identified the missing fuel, NAD plus pleate, the molecule that keeps the repair crews working, the sirtuins active, and the inflammation in check, but which sadly drains away as we age.
And finally, we looked at the stakes. The difference between just living to 80 and actually living until 80.
The difference between being a statistic and having agency over your biology.
It really reframes the whole concept of getting older. It's not just inevitable wear and tear, it's a biological state. And states can be managed.
It changes the narrative from fear to empowerment. You aren't helpless, you just need to understand the machinery.
So, here is the final thought I want to leave everyone with today. We talked about the body keeping score. We talked about the mirror test.
And the silent fire.
Right. So if your body has been keeping a score that you haven't really been reading for the last decade, maybe ignoring that stiffness, ignoring that brain fog, what is the first thing you need to change today to ensure the second half of the game looks different than the first?
That is the question. Is it your diet? Is it investigating NAD plus support? Is it just admitting that the pain isn't normal?
Think about it. Check your neck, check your hands, listen to your knees. They're trying to tell you something. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
It was a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one. Stay curious.